Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you all, depending on where you're joining us from in the world today. I'm Rachel Sanderson, Vice Principal for External Relations at the Times Higher Education award-winning University of the Year, got to get that in, University of Glasgow. And it is my immense pleasure and privilege to welcome you to our In Conversation event with someone who needs little introduction. Dame Kathryn Grainger, our new University of Glasgow Chancellor. Kathryn, welcome and thank you so much for taking the time to join our global community of alumni, students, staff and friends today to tell us a little bit more about your life and your ambitions in this new role. I'm thrilled that we are welcoming attendees from over 40 countries, including our 1451 Society members. And I'd just like to take this opportunity to say a huge thanks to everyone who has given so generously to the university. We do have a chat function, as you've hopefully already seen, so please feel free to interact with your fellow Team U of G members throughout. We've received pre-submitted questions, and thanks so much to everyone who's taken the time to get in touch with their burning question for Kathryn. Unfortunately, it's only a 1-hour event, but we'll do our best to get through as many questions as possible. Kathryn, hopefully you can speak as quickly as you can row.
I can actually probably speak faster than I can row, so we're fine.
So before getting today's session underway, I really just want to say a few words about our new Chancellor, Dame Kathryn Grainger, but where to start? Born in Glasgow, Kathryn is a proud Glasgow alum, having undertaken her Masters in Law and Ethics and Medicine at Glasgow in the year 2000, which is the very same year she achieved her first Olympic medal, taking silver in the Sydney Games. She is Britain's most decorated female Olympian, amassing 5 medals in rowing at 5 games, including, of course, gold at London 2012. Which incredibly, and I did not know this, is the same year that she achieved her PhD at King's College London. She's also a 6-time rowing world champion. Truly, Kathryn's list of accolades and achievements are awe-inspiring. She holds honorary degrees from 9 universities, including, of course, the University of Glasgow, and she was also named our Young Alumnus of the Year in 2012. She has been Scottish Sportsperson, say that again, she has been Scottish Sportsperson of the Year and the first female to win the Emirates Lonsdale Trophy. In 2016, her fellow Olympians voted her Britain's first Olympian, and she even has a quake named after her. Dame Kathryn Grainger became a Dane in 2017 for her incredible services to sport and charity and is, of course, the current chair of UK Sport. But perhaps the most important accolade of all, this year she became the University of Glasgow's first female Chancellor, succeeding the wonderful Professor Sir Kenneth Calman, and it's a role that we are delighted, Kathryn, to welcome you to. I could go on, I have pages more to talk through, but I'm also very conscious of the fact that we have limited time this evening, and I'm desperate to start asking you questions. So without any further ado, I feel like I'll get the starting gun ready or a klaxon sounding, and we're going to just jump straight into the questions, if that's okay with you, Kathryn.
Yeah, I like we're on the starting blocks. I feel let's just go. I mean, I go backwards. I mean, like physically, I'm in a boat. I go backwards at this point, so I'll try and not go backwards. But let's just get started.
Let's get started. Okay. Well, listen. So many questions have come in to ask you, and a lot of the questions actually are relating to your glittering career. Not just in the sporting world, but also in academia as well, you know, both of which have been constant passions for you, and you've been able to maintain a commitment to both. What is it that drives you to achieve the highest pinnacle in both sport and in academia? How have you done this, basically, Kathryn?
Well, probably be by being quite stubborn. Is, you know, at the heart of most things, because neither of them were particularly easy, or I didn't make them easy. But I think you got it, you know, hit the nail on the head bit when you said they were my 2 passions. You know, because I grew up in Glasgow. I didn't ever plan to be an Olympian. You know, it wasn't something that anyone I knew did or my family did, or it wasn't kind of an option, certainly when I was growing up, that, oh, I could go and become an Olympian. So I didn't really aim to do that. I certainly didn't aim to, I always wanted to go to university. My mum and dad were teachers. You know, I always was kind of inspired by what education can give you. And I wanted to go to university. My big sister went to university before me, and I loved hearing her stories. So I wanted to go into university, and I kind of found my sport when I was there. But I didn't ever see myself doing multiple degrees, and I didn't ever see myself climbing to the sort of Mount Olympus moment. And I guess what I was lucky with was I found two things that I absolutely loved. I found things that I found were real passions. And you know, I think we speak to a lot of people saying, I speak to a lot of young people at schools and things, and you know, you sort of say, oh, you know, try and find your passion. And it's a really hard thing. You know, if someone said at any age, you know, what's your passion? It's not always easy to know or find. And I think it's an easy thing to say, follow your passion, but what if you don't know what your passion is? And that's why I think I was lucky. I kind of stumbled upon rowing, and I stumbled upon academia in that sense. And I just found two things that motivated me and inspired me, and I wanted to see how good I could be. And I kind of, it just was very gradual. Every step I did, I wanted to see if I could be better. And I got brilliant, brilliant coaches and lecturers around me who encouraged me. And I think, you know, I found two things that it was tough. It was very tough to balance them both, but it's exciting when you feel you're involved in something you care about and you're enthusiastic about, and you want to see how far you can take it. And I think what was lovely was over time, they went from interests and passions to things I could really, you know, try and be in the top of the class in.
Yeah, and actually you picked up on something that I want to explore a little bit further with you, if that's okay, because we do have our Glasgow University Sports Association President, Sharif Khalif, with us, because I saw his name pop up in the chat. And we actually do have a question for Sharif, and it's exactly about that advice that you would give to students trying to balance the competing demands of academia and athletic pursuits, because it has got to be a real challenge.
Yeah. Hi, Sharif, by the way, and thanks for the question. Yeah, it is. It is. And I can't sit here going, oh, it was a breeze. You know, it was wonderful. I love them. They were both my passions, therefore it was easy. They were both my passions, but they were hard and very demanding of me. And I think, you know, one of those phrases that you get that it's, you know, if you want something done and done quickly, ask a busy person. And for me, in a way, I did fill my university time. You know, I really filled it well, I think, looking back very fondly in that time. And I kind of took on a lot. I really took on a lot. So I was an athlete, obviously, and I was doing a law degree. But then I wanted to become captain of the boat club and all these things that kind of made my life busier and busier. But I got better at them, and I got better at multitasking. I got better at doing more things because they mattered to me. And I think in the, you know, in days gone by, a long time ago, it used to be you were either, you know, academic or you were sporty. You know, it was kind of like that was your choice. You know, you wouldn't have someone doing both. You kind of got put in a pigeonhole in one or the other. And I think what is so much better now is actually so many people do both, and so many people do both because actually one helps the other. So I was honestly far better as a student because I spent a long time down at the boat club, and I spent a lot of time on the water. And I, you know, that fresh air, that kind of adrenaline, all the things that doing activity gives you made me much, much better when it came to, you know, mentally switching on in the library and in lectures. But at the same time, you know, after a while sitting in library and lectures, you know, that can also drive you a bit to distraction. I need to get out and do something physical. So I find them both. If you find the right things, then they really do help each other. And yes, it's difficult. And yes, I had to get very good at time management and very disciplined with what I did. But I also found, and everyone's different, but I'm the kind of person that I could sit down for a day to do an essay. And, you know, I'd spend like the first hour planning a really structured plan for the day. And then maybe someone would knock on the door or something, you know, I'd go and make myself a coffee, and then everything's thrown out. So then I spend another hour redrafting my plan for the day. And suddenly like 3 hours gone by and you've kind of just planned the day. Whereas when I was an athlete as well, I was like, I've only got 3 hours to do this essay. I'll just do it. That's all I've got. And I was actually much more effective and efficient because I had less time to do more things. So I do think if you can balance them, I think it's a brilliant thing to do academia as well as sport.
Yeah, well, that's great advice. And actually, I do just want to say that Sharif has commented what an inspiration it is for our student athletes to have an Olympic gold medalist as our Chancellor. And I think it's a complete inspiration to the whole of the University of Glasgow community to have you as our new Chancellor. Kind of staying with this theme, I also just wanted to put to you a question that's come from two of our alums, in fact. So thank you so much, Robin McLaren and Andrew Mitchell, which is really, once you've achieved that pinnacle in your sporting career, how do you remain motivated after transitioning out of competitive sport? Because that's got to be tough.
Yeah, it is, and it can be, and it's a really good question. Not just for people who have achieved, their highest aim within sport, but for any of us, if you've got a huge ambition, and I really believe if you've got, going back to that, if you've got something that motivates you and inspires you, if you can give yourself an enormous goal, something that's almost daunting and overwhelming, and for a long time I wouldn't admit to people what I was trying to do, because we all worried I'll get laughed at, or this is ridiculous. So, but I still think it's very, very motivating to have this kind of really almost impossible goal to aim for. But then the question is, well, then what then when you achieve it?
Yeah.
Because what drives you then? What motivates you next? What will inspire you to go on again? And there's always a sense of, will it be an anticlimax? I have to say, winning the Olympics was not an anticlimax for me. It was absolutely brilliant, but it was, I suppose, when I then retired, it was inevitable. Firstly, it was the only thing that I knew would come of my career. At one point it would stop. However else you achieve, at some point you will end it, because sport is limited in time. So I sort of felt, okay, well, that's me done. And then the biggest fear, and it was a fear I had, was, what if I never find anything else that will be as good? Or what if I never find anything I will feel the same passion for, or interest in, or ambition for? And I really believe you're incredibly lucky if you find something in your life that reaches you on a deep level, that you are motivated, inspired, and excited, and have that passion for. And I thought, I've done it once, I don't know if I'll find it again. And I also didn't know what area to look in. So when I sort of retired, it was the hardest sort of few months deciding what next. But I still felt ambitious, and I still felt that I didn't want to feel, when I retired from sport, that almost that's the best days gone now.
Yeah.
And I was interviewed once, and I did have a journalist saying to me, how does it feel to know that the best thing you'll ever achieve is now behind you? And it really threw me, because it suddenly made me think, what if they're right? What if the best I've ever done or ever will do is now my past, and I've got more than half my life ahead of me? So I think I always felt really strongly, well, I'm going to make sure it's not that case. I'm going to find something else. It won't be something that replaces competing at the Olympics in the same way, because nothing can. But I want to find something that I'm interested in, that I want to make a difference in, that I feel is important or relevant or challenging. And I applied for and got the role of the chair of UK Sport. And it's tough, it's hard, but it's something that I love. And I love working in the team I do. I love the motivation that sits behind it. I love that every day it's all about problem solving. And it's all about, when you're sitting in leadership position, you only really, the problems that come to you are very, very serious problems that haven't been fixed before they get to you. So it questions and sort of asks everything of me every day, and I love it, because I realized that's what I loved about my sport. Not the competing, not the crowds, not the winning. I loved that every day I was challenged, and every day I had to be my best to deliver what I needed to. And so finding the motivation the next thing post sport was just finding the thing that was right for me. And when I found the thing that was right for me, I wanted to be as good at it as I was as an athlete in a rowing boat. And I'm still struggling to meet that standard, but I love the fact that it's stretching me all the time.
Yeah, I think that's such great advice for everyone, that actually it's never too late to try new things, and actually that's part of the wonder of life, is actually taking yourself constantly on a journey, and that's obviously what you're doing now, hugely successfully.
Well, also because I think you always get, and every age will be different, but there's a point where you think, oh, I never did that, or I missed that, or I remember when I was young I wanted to do that, or when I grew up I thought I would do that and I haven't done now. And I think it's very easy to not write yourself off in any way, but we all get busy and we all get caught up in our lives and our worlds, and it's really important to sort of find a moment to yourself, just sit back and go, what is it that I really want to do, or what is it if I had more time, or if I was 20 years younger again or something else, what did I really want to do? And do I want to actually still do that? Or is something new that actually I've heard someone do or listen to, and I'd like to try and find time to do that. And I think we kind of deserve that. We deserve to give ourselves, a chance to still do the stuff that we've always wanted to do.
Yeah, completely agree. So talking about kind of Glasgow and your connections with Glasgow, and I've already kind of indicated in the introduction that, your journey with Glasgow started back in 2000 when you began your master's in law and ethics in medicine, but it has remained constant since then. So, you took the Young Alumnus of the Year title in 2012, you were awarded an honorary degree in 2013, and of course now you are our university's Chancellor. Can you just share a little bit with us what your relationship is like with Glasgow, both as a university and as a city, and really what it means to you?
Yeah, I mean, I knew the city before I knew the university because I was born in Glasgow, and I lived there for the first over 17 years of my life until I went to university. When I left home, almost deliberately. I love my mum and dad, but I still felt that I felt right to leave I think my mum and dad were very happy for me to leave home to go to university. I don't think they wanted me living at home while I was a uni student. So I went through to Edinburgh. But I grew up in Glasgow, and Glasgow to me is just where I learned so much about myself. When you're from school to all your friendships and all that learning stuff, and how you start to become when you're a teenager and you're kind of finding out about who you are and stumbling through all that, and first relationships and first drinks and first all the kind of, I don't know, the sort of key moments in the early part of my life were all in Glasgow. And
Yeah.
as a family, we lived just outside the city, so we'd travel into the city, and it was always so exciting, and always felt, oh, we'd go in the bus and just like, oh, it's so exotic and so exciting, and there was brilliant music, and I just think, I mean, everyone who knows Glasgow, everyone who's got a relationship with Glasgow, talks about it with such love, because it's a city that's got a real heart, and it's got a real soul, and it does have passion that oozes out of it. And the people I find are very real and just down to earth and say it as it is. And I think brilliant at laughing at themselves. There's a great sense of humor that sits in Glasgow, and I love it. It doesn't take itself too seriously, but it's got this incredible history and incredible sort of, I know, it's a city that just constantly reinventing itself as well. And I went back when I did some work with BBC for the Commonwealth Games in 2014. And what I loved was almost seeing it through fresh eyes again. And so many people that came from the BBC hadn't been to Glasgow before or didn't know it well. And they all just adored it. They all raved about it, and the food and the culture and the people and the music and everything about it just came to life for those incredible couple of weeks. And I felt really proud of it. You want people to enjoy the city. And university wise, I did go away as an undergrad to Edinburgh, and I very much enjoyed my time in Edinburgh, but it was such a joy to come back to Glasgow for my master's. And it was a part-time master's, and I was totally drawn in because of the course I was studying, which I loved, but also Professor Sheila McLean was running the course at the time, and she was such a legend. And I just adored how it was run and the people I met through that course. And then I have to say that being young alumnus of the year was great in 2012, because in 2012, from a rowing point of view, a lot of what was being talked about me was kind of like, is she too old to keep doing this sport? And I would love the fact that I was a young person somewhere. Glasgow saw me as a young person still. So I love that. And yeah, the honorary degree was incredible, but the chancellorship was something, I mean, never in my wildest dreams ever. I mean, no student sits in the university thinking, wonder if one day I'll come back as a chancellor. That's crazy time. So yeah, when I spoke to Anton about it a while ago, and it was genuinely just pinch yourself stuff, because all of my memories, all of my ties, all of my links are so positive with the city and the university and the people I've met through it, and they really are part of me. They really are kind of made me who I am in a lot of ways. And I love this, is that basically as a chancellor you can give something back, and you can help others, and that is such a privilege to be in that position.
And of course, this is not, though, your first chancellorship, is it, Dame Catherine Grainger? Because you have been Chancellor at Oxford Brookes University for the last 5 years. So we have a question here from Gavin Stewart and Cleopatra Paredes, one of our alums and one of our students, really asking, why have you chosen to take up the role at Glasgow? And you've probably already given us a bit of an indication of that, in fact, but also, most importantly, what do you hope to achieve here?
Oh, it's a good question. so yeah, I was chancellor first at Oxford Brookes, and that, you know, that when they approached me there, that, I mean, that was just totally out the blue. And I mean, like I was saying, no student thinks I could be a chancellor here one day. No person, I think, ever thinks they'll be a chancellor anywhere. You know, it's just not, it's not sort of on the list of things to do in your life. So when Oxford Brookes asked me, I mean, it was really, really quite a shock. And I was incredible. I just felt very, very lucky and very privileged. And you follow in the footsteps of incredible people that go before you. And you sort of feel there's a huge responsibility that comes with the role in a very positive way. And you want to do the best for the university. And the thing I loved about Brookes, which is, I think is very similar to Glasgow, is it's a university that is very important in its local community. So for Oxford Brookes, it was very much about what can students do to help the university as well as help themselves. And I think Glasgow's got the same feel of, you know, it sits so proudly within a very brilliant city. And I think, you know, the city needs the university needs the city. And I think that combination is so powerful in Glasgow. And you know, as a chancellor, you think, right, what can you bring? You know, you were saying, I'm following Sir Kenneth Kalman, and he did such an incredible job over such a length of time. And it's always hard to follow anyone who's been so brilliant in their role. So for, you know, first of all, is that pressure of I want to live up to what the university deserves and needs from a chancellor. But what I particularly want, you do want to put some of your own personality into it, and you want to bring something of yourself. But I sort of almost deliberately didn't want to start with a very clear vision of what I was going to do, because I think you have to speak to people. You need to speak to staff. You need to speak to students. You need to speak to alumni. You need to speak to people who, you know, have been part of that university experience in Glasgow, and to talk to them about what they think is needed and done. I don't want to impose anything on the university. I want to kind of add to it and help it and help it to flourish, although it's already University of the Year. So I mean, I don't know where I can take it next, but there's this kind of wonderful, I have this very strong sense of, you know, you get to the chancellor for a period of time. Now, when my period of time finishes, I need to be able to look back and say, the time I gave to it, the university is better in some way for my time with it. And I think that's a huge responsibility everyone in these roles should feel, of what can you do to help the university in the time you have it, because it is such a privilege to have it for that time. And so it's a long answer of saying I don't know the answer. I don't yet have the answer of what I want to do with it, because I almost want to spend a little bit of time finding out what I should be doing with it.
Yeah, well, we are very excited to go on that journey with you, that's for sure. And what I should also say is that a very warm invitation has been extended to you, Catherine, from our Oxford Alumni Association, should you be returning there for a visit at any time in the near future. So just wanted to give that shout out to our Oxford Alumni Association. So kind of just keeping on the theme of your chancellorship at Glasgow, we've had a number of questions submitted, and one from Sheila Richards and one from Peter Nicol. And it's really kind of focusing in on what skills do you think that you will bring to this role? And, you know, are there any that you've developed specifically within your kind of sporting background that you see being able to apply to this very different role? Or actually, is it a very different role?
I don't know. I feel like I'm in a job interview for a job I've already got. I'm like, what can I bring? I don't know now. I'm panicking. Yeah, well, yes and no. Well, yeah, clearly it's a very different role from being an athlete in actually what the job is. But you know, there's a lot of similarities in you know, there's a performance aspect to it. There's it's not necessarily a competitive aspect, but the thing I learned, and I think the wonderful thing about being an athlete, and I'm sure every athlete would say the same, and everyone in sport doesn't need to be at the top level. I find of all the things I've done in my life, sport has been the most incredible teacher. So every day I was an athlete, I was learning lessons. Now I didn't know I was learning them, but I was learning about myself. I was learning about my potential. I was learning about overcoming challenges, working with other people, overcoming setbacks, being ambitious, you know, setting goals, you know, all those incredible things that sport teaches you. And you hone those skills and you get better and better as you go through. And I think the thing that I will always carry with me is one of the best aspects of being an athlete or being in sport is it's always about where are you finding ways to improve. It's constantly this searching, this hunger, this desire to move forward and to make things better and to find ways to be in sport faster, higher, stronger. But it's so useful in other areas of life, and you have you set incredibly high standards for yourself and also for people around you, and then you do everything you can to meet them and then surpass them. And you know, it's why if you watch Olympic Games, Paralympic Games, you know, any of the great sporting events, every time you see it, you will see people setting new records because they have found a way to go better than anyone has ever gone before. And that's very motivating, that's very inspiring. And I think that sticks with me. And also the ability to be very flexible and agile in your thinking. You know, you need to be able to adapt and change depending on the situation around you. You know, I was in an outdoor sport, the weather changes all the time. Suddenly you have to, at short notice, make new plans, new changes. People get injured, people, you know, have setbacks. You need to constantly adjust as things go on. And that's really healthy. And also you get very good at working in, I loved working in teams. I mean, to me, sport has always been involved with other people, and how to, you know, create that incredible trust and that respect and that bond, that relationship. And then also, and that comes under the most intense pressure, how you bring the best out in each other, how you work with people to help them totally excel more than they ever thought, and to let, and be vulnerable to let them help you to excel as well. So there's loads of things I think as an athlete actually translates very easily and very well into these kind of roles. And I hope, very much hoping they'll all stay with me when I kind of help and do all the things with Glasgow, because I think a lot of them are very relevant and very useful.
Yeah, most definitely. And actually you just kind of picked up on, you know, challenging times, which is, you know, basically the theme of 2020. And it would be great actually for you to say a little bit about what you think the university will have to do to kind of face the very specific challenges that the pandemic has brought to bear on the higher education sector, and particularly what you think of the impact that this has had on the experience of our students. Because yeah, it's, I mean, 2020 has been really tough for us all, and we will continue to have to navigate through some of these challenges into 2021 as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Nobody saw this one coming.
Yeah.
You know, it's gone on longer than we thought. It's different than we thought. You know, it keeps ebbs and flowing. It's happening globally. It's interrupted, stopped, changes affected so many bits of our life, and some people are experiencing real tragedies through the middle of this. And you know, we're also quite fixated on it. You know, it's every news item, it's every conversation, it's every situation. Even, you know, we're not specifically talking about it tonight, but we're doing this virtually because it's kind of the way we can't be together in Glasgow right now. So it infiltrates everything. But I think, so I mean, first of all, I really feel for current students. You know, I really do. You know, I look back on my time, especially my first year, and you know, it's daunting and it's exciting and it's nerve-wracking, and you turn up physically at the university and you go through Freshers Week and you don't sleep for a week, and you join all these crazy clubs and societies you didn't know existed, and you know, you meet your lecturers and you learn how to take notes, and you know, it's all this stuff. But it helps being embedded in it, because you're with every single person going through the same. You're meeting people the whole time. You're walking down corridors with folk. You're sitting in lecture halls, and obviously none of that is possible right now. There's a big thing that the mantra that always flows through every athlete in every sport is just the phrase "control the controllables," and it's a real trying to sort of manage a way to bring your focus onto what's important and also what's realistic for you to be able to do. So there's lots of things we won't be able to affect. There's lots of things individually we cannot change. We can rage about them, we can be frustrated, we can be upset, but there's a limit to what we can actually do. So to be able to try and put all the energy into where we can make the difference ourselves, what we have in our own control to change and to help. And actually there's also a way of really focusing on some of the positives, in that I think we found a very different way of working and a very different way of what's possible and a very different way of connecting. And I think people have, you know, reevaluated their lives in a lot of ways and figured out what really is important and what's essential. And you know, initially, I mean, things have sped up again, it feels, but you know, things slowed down for a while, and there was time to sort of think about different things and experience different things. And I think, you know, we shouldn't let go of that. You shouldn't forget there's benefits we can make the most of in this situation. But yeah, I mean, everyone's going through, and I think there's also not a sort of straight path through it. It feels like it's a constant sort of roller coaster of emotions. So one day you feel like you're handling everything brilliantly, and the next day it's the end of the world, and you have no reason why it's changed. So there's also a real sense of, whether it's students, whether it's anyone going through this, it's just, also just be kind to yourself. And it's okay, whatever you're feeling, whether you're thinking, do you know what, I'm actually loving lockdown because, I can do different things, or I'm hating every aspect of this. These are all okay, and these are all normal emotions and things. I think there's a bit of a be good to yourself. We're all gonna, we will get through this. This will not be our life forever, and it will change in some way going forward, whatever it looks like. But just control what you can, and be good to yourself and the people around you.
Yeah, I think that sense of controlling the controllable is so important. It's such sage advice for us at this moment in time. But also, I think really importantly that the post-COVID recovery will be a team sport. Actually, we are not going to be able to do this individually, not even as an individual institution or individual organizations globally, but actually this will be about really true collaboration across borders to make things happen. And we've had a really good question in from Hamish MacDonald, who is actually one of our 1451 Society members. And he particularly picks up on this point, the fact that we have a global student and alumni community here at the University of Glasgow, which is fabulous. But what do you see as the benefits of this international community, and what role do you think international collaboration will play for the future of the university?
Yeah, I think arguably it's probably never been more important. If you think, we've probably never experienced anything in our lives where almost everywhere on the planet has been affected by this now. Every country, every society, every part of the people that live in any community, whether it's in the middle of nowhere or in the busy centres. This has affected everything and everyone and every industry. And you think, well, there's so much now connecting all of us. If there wasn't before, actually we've all been affected by this, and the only way we'll get through it is sort of collectively and collaborating. And I think the brilliant thing about the university is the reach that it has. You said earlier that we've got over 40 countries on this call, for example.
Yes.
Now just that alone, just in 1 hour tonight, we've reached in over 40 countries. And the thing about the fact that technology is now makes that possible, and then actually people should be closer, people should be more connected. We don't we can't be physically together right now, but actually going forward we don't necessarily need to be able to make great progress. So I think it's making sure people still feel connected and close to the university, from say alumni or current graduates from the University of Glasgow, but also thinking, well, how do we best link that with all the other universities who are going through similar things? And you kind of want to let the everywhere academia is no different. There's always a competitive aspect to life, but actually we've seen this in sport as well. It's one of the first times that actually the competition is secondary, because the most important thing is that we all get through this, and we all find a way that our own sectors, our industries are better at the end of this, and we can only do that by coming together and supporting each other and sharing best practice and sharing ideas and helping. And now the university sector is amazing, because already in research and development in all these different areas, there's already a huge international community that I think is naturally linked. But actually we can do it on every level, every member of staff, every student, every alumni, everyone who is connected to the university has that contact and has that connectedness. And if they can share and advise, and we've said at the beginning of this, if people want to feed into this and sort of suggest things that the university could be doing better or connecting better, then all those things should be looked at. Because I think there's this natural thing that most human beings as a species, mostly we're not overly comfortable with change. Things get very much to, this is just what we're used to, this is just how we do things.
Yeah.
And you think the one thing that this has really shifted is we haven't sort of chosen whether or not we change. We've had to change, we've had to adapt. And what is proved is how good we are at adapting, how good we are at, when you're forced to change, we can change so quickly and so fast. I've never had so many meetings by the power of technology through a computer screen, and yet they're working brilliantly. So we don't want it to be the answer going forward, but actually we can change and adapt. So now more than ever, we should be saying, well, how going forward can we do this even better? How do we make people more connected? How do we use people's incredible skills and areas of expertise and experience all over the globe and bring it tighter and better together? Because you sort of feel what we've been able to do through the pandemic, a lot of the benefits of that need to keep going forward.
Yeah, most definitely. And actually, I've heard a beautiful phrase recently talking about post-pandemic recovery as equicovery. the recovery has got to be equitable. Which brings me on to a question that we've been posed by one of our alums, Samuel Agbedi, who is kind of really picking up on the point that you are our first female chancellor, which is incredible. But how important is promotion of diversity and inclusion for you? And what do you plan on doing in this space within the role as Chancellor at the University of Glasgow?
Yeah, oh, honestly, I'm thrilled. I'm surprised I'm the first female chancellor, I'll be honest. I didn't realize that until I was appointed. But yeah, I mean, I can say this about time. Isn't this fabulous? And clearly, you know, I think generally in 21st century now, we are much better and much more aware of the utter value and the necessity of diversity and inclusion in so many areas. You know, I think gender was the first thing that really shifted, but you know, we've seen it across all, you know, ages, races, ethnicities, religions, you know, sexual back, I mean, everything, every area we've sort of woken up to the fact that actually not everyone has always felt welcome or comfortable, or that doors are open to them. And I think, you know, it's early days obviously working with the university, but I was asking about diversity inclusion policies and practice, and I know it was in part of the strategy that was leading up to 2020, and yes, the big target was the gender, was trying to increase sort of female senior staff roles. And I think the gender thing, and again we did very similar in sport, the gender was seen as the most obvious target first, because we do have, you know, it's pretty much 50-50 male female split. So actually, you know, increasing the presence of female in all roles, it feels it should be really quite manageable. And I think what's brilliant is that door has now been sort of burst wide open, and through that we should be looking at all diversity and all inclusion. And the inclusion bit is so important because, you know, for a while initially, I think there was a sense of, okay, we do need to improve diversity, therefore we will get, say, I mean, it started off with obviously women on boards. In the UK, we'll get 33% of women on boards, and then that's a number, and we'll hit the target, and we've done our job. And you know, the same with, you can have targets for obviously all different of the diversity angles, but there was a sense of, well, hitting the number is one thing, but if it stops there, it's going to ultimately fail, because all you do is you get the right number of people around a board table or in a position, but if they don't feel they genuinely belong or are welcomed or are valued and valuable, and their opinions are listened to and they are heard, then actually you won't keep them, and they will arrive in the room and they'll leave very quickly. Because why would you be there just to be a number? It's not a tick box exercise. You know, the feeling behind it, the motivation behind it has to be very genuine. You know, we want a diverse range of people, we want a diverse staff, we want a diverse workforce, and actually for all the right reasons. So when they're here, every single member that is here is not there because we're hitting a target or a number. They're there because it is absolutely crucial they are there, and they are as welcome as anyone in the room. And I think, you know, the important thing as well is to always be live to it, to never feel, oh, we've done it, we've done it now, we can move on, we've done diversity and inclusion, what's next? You know, there's a sense of, there'll always be new groups that need to be welcomed in. There'll always be some people that might ebb and flow. It might be that they felt welcome and now they don't. And so hearing the conversation, creating places where people can speak quite honestly and safely and openly to say, I don't feel involved, I don't feel included, I don't feel I matter to people. It's so important to hear those voices and to make sure we change. And I think there's a real desire to have that change.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right, and I'm really delighted. Our next strategic plan will actually be launched early in 2021, and we do have that much broader diversity and inclusion KPI in that new strategic plan. I think that is so important. It's not just about counting numbers, you know, it's not just about the quantitative aspect of this. It absolutely is around, do people feel welcome? Do they feel heard? Do they feel visible within our community? And I think there will always be more work that we can do in that space. Absolutely. So on to a question that we've had around resilience, which I'm sure is something that you know only too well. But as an accomplished athlete, you will have experienced so many challenging times, Catherine, where you've really had to kind of dig deep into your reserves and find, you know, that kind of well of positivity. Is there anything that you can share with our audience to, you know, top tips and advice as to how to stay resilient during these really challenging times?
Another good question. And it isn't an easy one to answer, because I think people do want to know, what's the answer to resilience? How do you become resilient? If only there was a tablet you could take, or a thing you could do, and suddenly you're resilient. But I think it's something that you can. I think some people are naturally more resilient than others, but I absolutely believe everyone can become more resilient. Everyone has it in them. And I think one of the really important things to know for all of us, and you did a very, very lovely introduction at the start of this about my successes and my accomplishments, and it's kind of how we all operate, isn't it? If you're introducing someone, you read out the greatest hits of their life, and of course you should. But what we rarely focus on or ask about or talk about openly is, all the failures. And, I wouldn't necessarily want you to be introducing me as, here's Catherine, who also didn't manage to make it into the best boat or all the rest. But I have had equally as many failures as I've had successes, and we don't focus on them because we generally don't. But it's important to know that they're all part of me and part of my history. And I kind of achieved on the big stage because I failed along the way. And I think resilience comes from sometimes just from living, genuinely. Just, we will get knocked every day in some way. We will have setbacks all the time. We will try for things and we'll fail, and we'll do our best and it won't measure up. And there can be things out with our control that will happen, and it means things don't work out. And I think genuinely just sometimes getting up every day and getting through that day is, every single time you do it, you become more resilient. You become a little bit tougher, a little bit smarter. You know yourself a little bit better, and also you learn. I think the one thing is that, I didn't enjoy failing. I didn't enjoy losing. I didn't enjoy any of those things. But if you can in some way learn from it and be better with it, then you become stronger, and you become a little bit. And I think I think we generally have the most amazing capacity for survival. And I think we often surprise ourselves with what we can cope with and what we're capable of. And I think we are resilient by nature. And I think, how do you get more resilient? I think partly is you don't try and hide from life. You don't try and protect yourself. You don't try and avoid any risks. You don't try and play safe all the time, because then I think you get worse at stepping up, or it's that all, you've got to get out of the comfort zone. We all get a little bit comfortable. We all get a little bit safe, and of course it's normal. It's life. You don't want to take on challenges every single moment of every day, but if you don't do it at all, we don't get so good at. We lose. It's like a muscle. You lose that ability to be able to take it on. And I think we should test ourselves, and we should sort of push ourselves. And if we achieve, brilliant, move it on again, do something more. If you don't, accept you're human, but accept you will become more resilient for having gone through it and coming out the other side. So I wish there was an easy answer to say this is how you are resilient. There's no easy answer, but I think for a lot of things I've done in my career, it would have been easier not to. It'd have been safer not to. And I've failed. I've lost races in front of literally billions of people, and I have sobbed in front of billions of people, and I'm all right. You kind of get through it, and you dust yourself off, and you get back up, and you get back in there, and you try again the next time, and we're generally we'll be all right. We really will be all right. So just, again, be good to yourself, but don't shy away from taking stuff on, because I genuinely believe we're all better than we think we are.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Hang in there is kind of is part of that advice as well, isn't it? Things will get better. And actually, to your point around the importance of connectivity, we actually have Jack McConnell, who is the Chancellor of the University of Stirling, with us right now, and he's popped something up into our chat that I wanted to share with you and get your thoughts. But he's been thinking about the potential for chancellors across the sector to work together to benefit higher education as a whole. And he's just wondering if you have any ideas or comments on that.
Jenny, there should. Well, first of all, hi Jack, lovely to have you here. And
yes, hi Jack.
Any top tips, send them over my way. But I think we should have a chancellors club. I mean, that should not be hard to organise. It's one of those strange roles as well. I don't know how Jack felt, but when I first took it on, I'm a bit like, I don't really know what a chancellor does. You know the title, but really, what do they do? I still haven't got the exact answer, but I do think, in a way, those strange, rare roles, it's almost even more important to make sure that chancellors are connected up and are talking to each other and learning from each other and advising and helping and supporting. And what a great group to be able to say, this is what we're struggling with right now. What can you do to help and support? So I am totally up for that, Jack. So let's get offline. Let's get in touch and make a plan.
Yeah. Oh, sounds very exciting.
Ah.
And talking about exciting, we are now crawling towards, actually, I'm not sure if it is crawling. I think we're crawling towards the end of the year because we're all feeling a little bit exhausted, I think. But at the same time, actually, it feels like 2020 has gone in a flash. Do you have plans for the festive? What does your kind of Christmas period look like?
Well, everything's a little bit tentative right now because, for goodness sake, we don't quite know what's around the corner, what's around any corner.
I know.
So I'm not making plans too far in advance. I haven't seen my mum and dad particularly. I haven't seen many of my family, but I haven't seen my mum and dad for a long time now. And the plan is definitely to go and see them. And just, I don't know, I suppose it's like everyone, isn't it? You really are, I think we all appreciate some of the really simple things we've not been able to do. And some of the things that, not that I ever take my family for granted, but you kind of just always assume you'll be able to go and visit them if I want to, and I haven't been able to. And suddenly it becomes even more important to do that. So I think, for me, with Christmas around the corner, I love it. I love the season. I love the time of year. I love when it's all getting a bit dark and gloomy outside. Christmas lights are there, and there's the really lovely positive things to look forward to. And now that we don't have nearly as much as we normally do to look forward to at this time of year, but there's still a lot to celebrate. And I think there's a lot, even acknowledging the very heavy toll that this year has taken on so many people. I think it's even more important to focus on any good that you can find and what you are grateful for and what you are thankful for and what you're happy about. And that can be big things or very small things. And just that appreciation is probably more than ever this year. So I think it'll be a fairly low-key Christmas, but in a way, possibly better for it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And plans for 2021, other than obviously ruling over the University of Glasgow?
Ruling over? I hadn't thought I'd be phrasing it like that. Gosh, that sounds fabulous. I might have to get some sort of crown or something. And apart from ruling, well, again, I mean, just seeing people in person would be thrilling right now. I didn't, when it first started, I didn't, I didn't miss commuting. I didn't miss all the travel I used to do. But now, good grief, it'd be lovely. It'd be lovely to be chatting in the same room, Rachel. I mean,
I miss it so much.
That feels like a luxury right now. So, I think there's an aspect of, I am someone who makes New Year's resolutions, and there's always this kind of should you or shouldn't you, isn't there? Because there's always that thing of the risk is you make them and then you never do them. And in fact, I've got some for the last 8 years have been the same. But, in a way, by writing them, is that just a bit of a way of getting you off the hook? Because I've written them, I'll never do them, but I've written them, I've had the good intention to do them. But I still do them thinking, I'm ever the optimist, thinking, I'm sure I'll get them this year. So I will make resolutions, and I'll make resolutions not just for me personally, but for what I want to do with the university and things. But I think we'll still have there'll still be a big caveat of what's possible going into 2021. But I think, and it's linking back to this resilience thing, I think there's a real potential for it to be an incredibly special year, an incredibly emotional year, because I think we will find a return in some way to some of the great stuff we've always had in the past, and we will have again. I do think we'll find better ways of doing things because of this, but I do think we will, never more than the next year appreciate when we do all get back together and join in events together. And I think that's really important to sort of focus on next year, depending on what's allowed and what's possible. Just the stuff that you really will value and you look forward to, and that will be more highlighted next year than ever, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm very conscious that we are kind of nearing the end of today's session. How is that possible that we're getting so close to the full hour being up already? And I believe that we have, in addition to yourself, of course, Catherine, another very special guest online with us this evening, our Principal and Vice Chancellor, Professor Sir Anton Muscatelli. So I hope that Anton is listening in, and I just wanted to give him the opportunity to kind of pop on live as well before we say just a kind of few words of thanks. And then actually, Catherine, I really want to make sure that you have the final word of this event, and just share with you, for you to share with us just some closing remarks as well. But let me see if Anton is actually here. He is.
I am here. Hi, Catherine. Hi, Rachel. How are you?
Very well, Anton. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Well, I was just going to say a few words of thanks, and thank you for bringing me on to the panel. But above all, I wanted to say thanks to our Chancellor, Catherine Grainger, for giving up her time, not only for one session, but in fact, we had 2 sessions with the university today. So thank you, Catherine. I mean, I certainly found it a hugely illuminating discussion. It's further reinforced for me just how fortunate we are to have someone with your experience and personal qualities as our Chancellor. And I think today's conversations are not how we imagined you to interact with us on one of your first meetings with our community of staff, students and alumni, but it's really great that we've been able to at least provide you with an initial opportunity to meet the great U of G community, and there'll be many more occasions to come in the years ahead and in person. We talk a lot about world changes here in Glasgow. That description certainly applies to you in spades. Your personal story, your dedication, and the success you've achieved on the global stage are really inspirational in their own right. But I think what's equally impressive is your commitment, as we heard in your answers to Rachel, to giving back now that you've retired from competition, whether that's as chair of UK Sport or indeed as our Chancellor. And I certainly, what you said about this challenging year and your message about how to stay positive and keep motivated through study and through sport and other activities, and your message that actually that we should all be kind to ourselves and others is something that resonated very much for me. But also great to hear about your passion and pride for our great city. And what you said is absolutely right. Without the city, we wouldn't be here as a university. And likewise, the city benefits hugely from our university. So really wonderful to hear how you want to engage with our student body, with our alumni as Chancellor, and you will get some opportunities to do that in person, as I say, next year, hopefully. Rachel, before passing back to you, I also wanted to thank you for sharing today's sessions, and indeed thank everyone within your external relations team who have been involved in pulling these 2 events together. It's vital that we stay connected as an alumni community, and I want to thank all of you who have found the time to log on and join us today for these sessions. I know you have further events planned. I don't know if you want to talk about them or if you want me to say a few words about them, but I know that we have events to mark Burns Day at the end of January. We have our annual Holocaust Memorial Lecture at the end of January, and I know we have our next installment of our World Changing Glasgow Conversation series in January too. And I know external relations will inform our alumni and our staff and student community about this in the coming weeks. And as Catherine mentioned, we were really delighted last week that we were named University of the Year by Times Higher Education. It's a terrific achievement and an acknowledgement of the work we've done in recognition of our historical links to slavery and our program of reparative justice. And I think this is the work which makes this university so special and why this community is so important. So it's great to finish what has been a tough year on a high. So I hope everyone who's part of Team U of G takes pride in this achievement. So once again, let me sign off, Rachel and Catherine, with a thank you to our Chancellor. Thank you to our audience for joining us this evening. And if I don't see you before, which I probably won't, stay safe, have a happy, safe and peaceful Christmas. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you so much, Anton. And I think we're all looking forward to the next 12 months of celebrations for our Times Higher Education University of the Year Award. And there's certainly an awful lot for us to celebrate despite the challenges that 2020 have brought us. Anton has really said everything that I would want to say, which is, I stole my thunder, which is really just to thank Dame Catherine Grainger for such a fantastic and inspiring conversation. I've loved every minute of it, and I could keep chatting to you for the rest of the evening. Thank you so much to all of the team involved in pulling the event together, and a huge thanks to everyone that has joined us throughout today. In fact, as Antoine said, this is kind of take two. This is our kind of second session of today, and it's phenomenal that we have been joined by so many from our alumni community, from literally across the globe, as well as from our own students, staff, and supporters and friends as well. Your kind of time and support of the university is hugely, hugely appreciated, never more so than now. And I think the importance of remaining connected actually has been the one silver lining of 2020. I think we will take that into 2021. But I did say, Catherine, that I was going to give you the final words, so I'm going to hand over to you for any final remarks.
Oh, thanks, Rachel, and lovely to have Antoine as well. Obviously, he's done an incredible job, especially in the last few months when it's been so difficult for everyone. So yeah, I mean, we're all just thanking each other now, but I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's joined the call, because if anyone's like what I've been doing, you spend all your time in front of a computer screen at the moment. So I really appreciate for people taking another hour to sit in front of a computer screen. And it is, you know, it does feel the best way to connect right now. I think that sense of connection has never been more important. You know, this whole pandemic we're facing can feel quite isolating. And I think it's really important, good times and bad times, that we are that community of University of Glasgow people. And so to all the current students, to all the former students, to all the alumni, massive thank you for being part of this. It wouldn't be the same if it was just Rachel and I talking. It makes a difference because you're all there with us. And it's really powerful, and you feel that, you really feel the spirit of that, which is so important to keep hold of. To all, if there are current students watching, good luck, you know, well done. It's been tough, it's not been what we planned, but it will be better, and it will get, you know, your university experience will change. But I think students have proved, again, a bit like I said how athletes are, I think students have proved how resilient they are and how adaptable they are. And this will be a year we'll all be talking about, and you'll be famous for having spent your especially if it's your first year in these times. But keep up that kind of resilient spirit, and we will all get through this together. And a huge thank you to the alumni who have also contributed. I know we've actually financially contributed, because there's been over £500,000 raised that have helped people and students particularly in these tough situations. So I cannot thank you enough for your generosity, especially in these tough times, your generosity and giving and thinking of the university. It's just fabulous, and it makes it even more special for me to be part of a university and a city that I adore, but also the people who are linked to it are utterly inspirational. So thank you, each and every one of you, for that. There's not much more for me to say other than I hope I will be able to connect with you either virtually or in person over the next few years when I'm here. I'm utterly thrilled to be part of this fabulous community. It's such a privilege, and I think, you know, I think we will, and I still do go rowing. I'm going to say that I still go rowing. So when I'm out in a boat, it's lovely to think I have this constant link back to Glasgow, and I'll hopefully be back on the Clyde sometime rowing when I'm allowed to. But it's such a celebration. I think we should celebrate this university as much as any. And being University of the Year, as you said, Rachel, the celebrations are just beginning. So it's well past 5 o'clock here in the UK. So wherever you are in the world, I hope you can join me. And I'm going to raise a little cheeky glass now. I have the bubble ready. I know. I thought I should. But it's really to every single person who's on this call who have made this possible, both staff, both students and alumni. Thank you, each and every one of you. You make this so successful and so wonderful and so happy and so fabulous in these difficult times. And also mainly and most importantly to the University of Glasgow, the reason we're all here. Cheers to Glasgow.
Thank you. Slàinte.
Slàinte.